Jace stood at the edge of the space junkyard, arms crossed, eyes scanning the line of old, broken ships. The air smelled of oil and rust. A crowd of traders, scavengers, and junkers surrounded the auction stand. Most looked bored. They were all waiting for something valuable, something with working parts or hidden treasures. The auctioneer, a three-eyed alien with a loud voice, pointed to the next ship on the lot. Lot 47. He shouted, unopened, no records. Locked tight for 20 years. Could be junk, could be treasure. Or cursed. The crowd laughed. No one stepped forward. The ship was small, dusty, and covered in vines. Its hull was black, scratched, and dented. One side had alien writing that no one could read. The ship looked useless. Jace squinted. Something about the ship felt different. Starting bid 10. Credits, the auctioneer barked. Silence. 5 credits? Still nothing. Jace raised a hand. 5. The crowd turned to look. Some laughed, going once, twice, sold. The auctioneer yelled, slamming his staff on the ground. To the human with no sense, Jace smiled to himself. He had bought bigger junk for more money. Maybe this was just scrap, or maybe, just maybe, it had something left inside. Later, Jace dragged the old ship into his small repair bay. He placed it gently under the light and walked around it. The door was sealed with strange energy locks, no buttons, no handles. He scratched his head. How do I open this thing? He pulled out a power drill, but it didn't even scratch the metal. He tried heat cutters. Nothing. Finally, he reached for his portable decoder, an old device made to hack alien tech. He placed it on the lock, pressed a few buttons, and waited. The machine beeped. The lights on the ship flickered. A loud hiss filled the room as cold mist poured from the door. Jace stepped back, heart pounding. The hatch slowly opened with a groan, and inside was darkness. He grabbed a flashlight and pointed it inside. Rows of vines and dust lined the small hall. At the end, a round door stood half open. It looked like a pod. A survival chamber. Suddenly, a weak thud echoed from inside. Then, a soft growl. Jace froze. Hello? He said carefully. No answer. He stepped inside slowly, light shaking in his hand. The cold air touched his skin like icy fingers. Then he saw her. A woman. No. Not human. She was lying inside the pod, breathing slowly. Her skin was a soft violet blue. Her long white hair tangled around her face. Her body was thin, almost starved. She wore strange armor, cracked and covered in dust. Her eyes opened bright gold, glowing faintly in the dark. She stared at Jace, lips trembling. Her voice came out as a whisper, in a language he didn't understand. Then she sat up fast and wild. A broken plasma blade was in her hand. She pointed it at him, shaking. Jace lifted both hands. Easy. I'm not here to hurt you. She didn't lower the blade. He slowly backed away. I bought the ship. I didn't know anyone was inside. You've been asleep. Frozen, maybe? The alien woman looked around, confused. She touched her armor, then the pod. Her eyes filled with fear. Then anger. She stepped out of the pod. Weak on her feet, but fierce in her eyes. She spoke again, this time louder. Her voice was beautiful but filled with pain. Jace didn't understand her words, but he could feel what she meant. She thought he was the enemy. He pointed to himself. Jace. My name is Jace. She blinked. Then she whispered something and dropped to one knee, placing the broken blade at his feet. He stepped back. What are you doing? She looked up at him and said a single word, one he didn't recognize, but the way she said it, like it was sacred. Like a vow. He felt a chill run down his spine. Jace looked around the broken ship and then back at the alien woman kneeling before him. What had he just bought? Asterisk. She didn't blink. Her golden eyes locked onto Jace like a predator, studying prey, but her hands were trembling. The broken blade she held looked deadly, even in its weak state. But Jace noticed something else. Her knees wobbled, her lips were dry and cracked. She was scared. And starving. Then, without warning, she dropped the blade. It clattered across the metal floor, and she collapsed. Jace rushed forward, catching her before she hit the ground. Her body was ice cold, too light, too fragile. Up close, he could see the scars on her neck, old wounds, healed over a long time ago. Whoever she was, she had survived something terrible. He carried her to his medical table, laid her down gently, and covered her with a thermal blanket. She didn't wake. She just breathed slowly, like someone trying to hold on to life one breath at a time. Who are you? Jace whispered. The room was quiet, except for the hum of old alien tech still hidden in the ship. Hours passed. She slept, motionless, wrapped in warmth. Jace sat nearby, watching over her. He gave her water through a small dropper. Her fingers twitched. Her face softened. Then suddenly her eyes opened again. Golden, bright, focused. She sat up fast, grabbing the nearest tool and pointing it at Jace like a weapon. Jace raised his hands. Easy. It's just me, remember? She stared at him, breathing hard, heart pounding. Then she looked down at herself. The blanket, the food nearby. She blinked. And slowly lowered the tool. Still sitting, she spoke again in her language. Then slowly she repeated one strange word, Trenna. Jace pointed to her. Trenna? Is that your name? She paused, then nodded. He smiled. Okay, Trenna. He pointed to himself. Jace. She tilted her head. Then, to his surprise, she whispered, Jace, Trenakthar. He didn't know what that meant, but her voice sounded like a promise. That night, Jace ran her language through his old translator module. It was slow, outdated, but it worked. The words started to make sense. The next morning, as she sat on the edge of the bed, eating a small meal, he tried to speak. You were sleeping long time, he said slowly. Trenna looked at him, confused. He showed her the translator. It played a rough voice. You were frozen for many cycles. Her eyes widened. She touched her face, her chest, then looked around the room like she didn't believe it. Then she whispered something. The translator worked hard and spoke. I was a gift for a warlord. They locked me in when the war ended. They left me behind. Jace sat down, shocked. A gift? Bride, slave, honor bond, the translator said next. She looked down, ashamed, then met Jace's eyes and pointed to him. She said another word, slowly, clearly. The translator replied, Now you are my owner. My bondmate, Jace blinked. What? No. I didn't ask for this. Trenna stood and bowed deeply. I am yours. You opened my pod. You woke me. I belong to you now. Jace felt a chill run through him. This wasn't a misunderstanding. This was an ancient, alien tradition. And he had just triggered it. As the sun rose over the edge of the junkyard moon, Trenna followed Jace around the ship quietly. She cleaned. She touched every tool like it was precious. She even cooked something strange using his food supplies. It smelled sharp, spicy, but good. She wasn't afraid anymore. She was trying to make herself useful. Jace watched her, not sure what to feel. She was beautiful, strong, mysterious, but also broken, lost, and now bound to him by a rule he never knew existed. He tried again to explain. You don't have to stay. You're free, the translator replied. I know, but I choose you. My life belongs to you now. Later that night, a soft beeping sound echoed from Jace's control panel. Someone was pinging the ship's old signal. He checked the source, unknown vessel, coded with a foreign emblem. Then a message popped up on the screen. Signal received. Lost asset located. Prepare for retrieval. Jace stared in horror. Someone knew she was alive. Someone was coming to take her back. The stars outside looked calm, but inside Jace's ship, everything was about to change. Trina stood at the center of the room, lit only by the soft blue glow from the control panel. Her eyes were focused on the message that had just appeared. On the screen, signal received, lost asset located. Prepare for retrieval. She didn't blink. Her whole body froze. Jace stepped beside her. You know who sent that, don't you? Trina gave a slow, haunted nod. Then she whispered one word, sharp, painful, heavy. Tholak. The translator struggled, then spoke. The warlord. Jace's blood went cold. They're coming to take you back? She didn't answer. She didn't have to. Jace walked back and forth, thinking hard. He didn't want trouble. He didn't want war. He was just a junk scavenger. He'd bought a ship, not a bride, not a slave, not a royal prisoner. But now, he had all three in one, and worse, he cared. Trina quietly began to tidy the ship again, as if nothing happened. She cleaned the walls, folded spare cloths, swept dust from the corners. Every step was graceful, every movement quiet. You don't have to do that, Jace said gently. She turned and gave him a soft smile. It is my place. I am yours now. No, Jace said, walking up to her. You're not mine. You're not a thing. You're free. Trina tilted her head. Free? But I was born to serve. You saved me. You opened the pod. I owe you everything. Jace shook his head. You don't owe me anything. She touched her chest. I want to stay, even if you do not claim me. I choose to stay with you. Her words were simple, but powerful. Not spoken like a slave, but like someone who found something worth staying for. That night, Jace couldn't sleep. He kept looking at the blinking signal on the screen. He had 24 hours. Maybe less. If the ship arrived, they'd take her, maybe hurt her, maybe worse. And he knew he wouldn't let that happen. The next morning, he found Trina sitting in the engine room, touching a small metal cube in her hands. It was glowing. He asked, what is that? Trina looked up. Memory crystal. I recorded my last day, before they locked me in. She offered it to him. He hesitated, then pressed the button. A tiny hologram rose into the air. In it, Trina was younger, stronger, standing before a crowd of alien soldiers. Her face was hard. Her voice was commanding. I will not marry the warlord. I am not a gift. I am a guardian. Cheers. Then blaster fire. Screams. And the image cut out. Jace stared at the crystal. Trina was never a gift. She was a fighter. A rebel. A woman who was punished for saying no. They lied, Jace whispered. Trina nodded. I do not want to be owned, she said softly. But I do want to belong. To something real. To someone kind. Jace looked at her for a long time, and then he made a decision. That evening, Trina prepared dinner. It wasn't human food, but it was warm, fragrant, and oddly comforting. She placed the plate in front of Jace and sat across from him. They ate in silence for a moment. Then Jace looked up. I've been thinking. Trina waited. You said your people believe whoever opens the pod becomes your bondmate, right? She nodded. Yes, that is the law. But what if I accept it? Not because of the law, but because I want to? Trina froze. Her eyes widened. I mean, not as your owner, not as a master, but as your equal. Trina stood slowly, walked around the table, and knelt in front of him, not as a slave, but with deep respect. If you choose me by heart, she whispered, then I will follow you by soul. Just then, the ship's warning lights flashed red. An enemy vessel had entered the system. The warlord's hunters had arrived. Asterisk. It started with silence. Then came the hum. Low, deep, vibrating through the walls of Jace's ship like the breath of a giant. Trina's eyes shot open. That sound, she whispered. I know it. Jace checked the sensors. A ship had just entered orbit above the junkyard moon. Large, heavy, silent, no name. No signal, just one blinking code call on Theash. 7.T single quotes. Rena's face turned pale. "It's him," she said softly. "The warlord sent them." Outside, stars moved like ghosts behind the clouds of debris. The enemy vessel didn't fire. Didn't speak. It simply hovered above, watching. "They're scanning us," Jay said, tapping the console. "Looking for life signs." Trina stood still, hands clenched. "They will find me. The pod had a tracker. It woke when I did." Jace frowned. "Can we shut it off?" She shook her head. "It's deep inside me, under the skin, a royal marker." He turned to face her. "Then we'll trick them." 10 minutes later, the outer door opened with a hiss. 3 armored soldiers stepped in, weapons on their backs, glowing visors hiding their faces. They moved slowly, like hunters. Confident. And cold. Jace stood waiting near his workbench, pretending to fix a machine. One of them spoke in a sharp voice. "Human, this ship contains stolen royal property. We will inspect." Jace didn't answer. He just nodded and stepped aside. The soldiers split up, walking through the small ship like they owned it. Trina hid in the cargo hold, crouched behind boxes, a hood over her head, a cloak wrapped around her. Her heart pounded. Her hands trembled, but she remembered who she was, a guardian. A fighter. Not just some forgotten prize. One of the soldiers paused near the hallway. His visor flashed red. "Found it." He growled. He stepped forward, weapon rising, but then a blast hit the wall beside him. Sparks flew. "Step away from her." Jace shouted from behind, holding a pulse rifle, his hands shaking, but eyes locked. The soldier turned, laughing. "You dare point that at me, human?" "Yeah," Jace sighed. "I dare." The other soldiers moved quickly. One raised a scanner toward Trina, but she moved faster. With a sudden roar, she ripped off the cloak and leapt forward, knocking the scanner aside. Her fist slammed into the soldier's chest plate, cracking it. "I am not yours," she yelled. The soldier stumbled back, shocked. "She's active," one shouted. "Capture her." They rushed at her. Jace fired again, hitting one in the leg. Trina spun, kicked, dodged. The old ship became a war zone, small, shaking, full of light and sound. Jace grabbed Trina's hand. "Escape hatch now." They dove into the side tunnel, sealed the door, and launched the emergency sled. The tiny pod shot out of the ship like a bullet, diving into the dark canyons of the junkyard moon. Above them, the enemy ship watched silently, but it had seen too much. It began to descend. Inside the escape sled, Jace sat panting. Trina looked at him. Her cheek was bruised, her hair messy, but her eyes burned bright. "You risked your life," she said. "For me." "You're not cargo," Jace replied. "And you're definitely not anyone's slave." She smiled weakly, for the first time in years. She felt safe, but only for a moment, because outside, far in the distance, the warlord's ship began to open its landing claws. It wasn't done yet, and neither were they. The escape pod sat deep inside a mountain of metal trash. Above, the sky turned red, not from sunset, but from the enemy ship's landing thrusters. Dust swirled. Metal groaned. And Jace knew they were running out of time. Trina sat beside him. In the cramped pod, her hands were bleeding. Her armor cracked, but her focus was sharp. "They won't stop," she said softly. "You wounded one of their elite. Now they'll come for both of us." Jace wiped sweat from his forehead. "Then we don't wait for them. We run." He opened a storage panel, revealing a tiny map, hand-drawn, old, and torn. It showed forgotten tunnels below the junkyard, smuggler routes, abandoned shafts. Dangerous, but maybe useful. Trina leaned closer. "Here," she said, pointing. "This symbol, it's old language. It means hidden gate. If we get there, I can use my code. We might escape. Jace looked at her. You can read that? Trenna nodded. It's from before the war. My mother taught me. Most people forgot. Jace grinned. Lucky me, my bride's a genius. Trenna blinked, then gave him a small strange smile. They left the pod and slipped through the junkyard ruins like shadows. The metal hills were quiet now, but in the distance, search drones buzzed through the air. One flew overhead. They ducked. It passed. They kept moving. The deeper they went, the older everything became. Rusted ships, broken weapons, bones. Jace stopped at a large door half buried in the ground. This must be it, he whispered. Trenna stepped forward, knelt, and pressed her hand to the surface. Symbols lit up. The metal door groaned open, revealing a long tunnel of blue light. This way, she said, voice calm but serious. They walked for what felt like hours. No sound, no light but the glowing floor. It felt like a dream until the tunnel suddenly opened into a wide, underground chamber. Inside, a small ship. Old. Alien. But untouched. Jace stepped back, stunned. Is that yours? Trenna smiled. No, but it's from my people. From before the war. She walked up to the ship and touched a panel. Lights flickered on, engines hummed. It still works, she said with pride. This is how we leave. Jace climbed in after her. The cockpit was clean, simple, built for two. Trenna moved with ease, pressing glowing buttons, speaking soft commands in her old language. This ship was meant for escape, she said. Now it's ours. Suddenly, the alarm screamed. A drone had entered the tunnel. They found us, Jace shouted. Trenna hit the launch sequence. The ship roared to life. The tunnel lit up behind them, with red flashes. Enemy fire. As the alien ship rose from the underground chamber, the floor behind them exploded. Jace and Trenna were thrown forward. The ship blasted through the mountain ceiling, shooting into the open sky like a firework. Enemy ships turned to follow. They're on our tail, Jace yelled. Trenna didn't answer. Her hands moved fast. She pressed a glowing crystal into the control panel. The ship shimmered, then vanished from radar. High above the moon, in the cold darkness of space, the alien ship turned invisible. Silent. Gone. Single quotes. Rena leaned back in her seat, breathing hard. Jace looked at her. You just used a cloaking drive? She nodded. Only works for short time, but it's enough to hide. He laughed. You're full of surprises. Trenna looked at him, serious. I said I would protect you, not just follow. He smiled. Guess we're both protecting each other now. Far behind them, the warlord's ship searched the skies, but the two fugitives were gone. For now. The stars looked peaceful. But inside the small alien ship, peace was an illusion. Trenna stood in front of a mirror inside the crew bay, running, her fingers along the deep scar on her shoulder. Her golden eyes stared back at her. She was no longer the same woman who had slept inside a cold pod for years. She was awake now. Alive. Free. And someone had tried to take that from her. Again. Not this time. Jace sat in the pilot's seat, scanning the nav system. He had found an old mining belt nearby, rich in cover, full of hiding spots. We'll wait here, he said. Let their sensors pass, then find a new world. Trenna walked up quietly. No, he turned. No, she nodded. We don't run anymore. We fight, Jace blinked. Fight them? With what? This ship has no weapons. Trenna knelt beside the storage panel and pressed her hand to it. With a soft hum, a hidden drawer opened. Inside, two ancient alien weapons. Blades that glowed blue. With power, this ship belonged to my clan. We were protectors. Every escape ship carried weapons just in case. Jace stared. You were trained for this. I was born for this. She stood tall, her voice steady. I am not a gift. I am not a pet. I am not his property. Her fingers curled tightly around the blade. I am his mistake. The moment they exited the mining belt, they were spotted. 2 small warships broke formation and began to chase them. This is Warlord Tholak's claim, a voice growled over the com. Surrender the traitor, or be destroyed. Jace looked at Rena. She didn't answer. She simply stood, walked to the back hatch, and opened the weapons locker. She strapped on Old Warrior, armor scarred, but strong. The shoulder plate bore a forgotten symbol. Jace asked, "What does that mark mean?" She replied softly, "It means, I rise again." Jace's hands flew across the control panel. "We'll give them a surprise." He pulled the ship into a tight spin and dropped into a nearby asteroid field. Enemy ships followed fast, angry, confident. They didn't see what was coming. As one ship passed too close, a small door opened on the side of Trana's craft. She leapt out in space armor, gliding across the asteroid like a shadow. Jace yelled, "Wait, what are you doing?" Her voice came through the com. "Finishing this." She landed hard on the enemy vessel, magnetic boots holding her tight. The soldiers inside scrambled to react, but she was already cutting through the top with her blade. In seconds, she was inside. Screams echoed. Jace watched from the cockpit, stunned, scared, proud. The enemy ship spun out of control, then exploded in silence. Trina launched herself through debris toward the second ship. They tried to turn away. Too late. 10 minutes later, space was quiet again. The only ship left was hers. She floated back to the hatch, landing gently. Jace caught her as she stepped inside. Her face was bruised. Her armor cracked. But she stood tall. He looked at her, breathless. "You just took out 2 warships." She looked him in the eyes. "I told you," she said. "I would protect what's mine." Jace smiled. "Guess I'm the bride now." Trina blinked. Then laughed, a sound he hadn't heard before. Soft, real. Alive. Far away, on the Warlord's command ship, a new message appeared. "Warning, target has awakened. And she is not alone." Trina stood at the front of the ship, staring out into the stars. Her armor was gone. No blade in her hand. Just silence. And a question in her heart. Jace was behind her, working on the control panel, trying to fix a damaged engine. But she wasn't thinking about the ship. She was thinking about him. He had protected her, not because of tradition, but because he chose to, and now it was her turn to let him choose again. They were safe for now, but not free. The Warlord's main fleet had not moved. It waited in deep space, near the border of a neutral system. Trina knew what it meant. "He's not chasing anymore," she said softly. "He's waiting for me to come to him." Jace looked up. "A trap?" Trina shook her head. "A deal. If I go alone, he won't hunt you." "No way," Jace said, stepping closer. "We're in this together." She turned to him. "No, Jace, you didn't ask for any of this. I was forced on you. I brought danger. I brought war. You should be free." He stepped even closer. "You weren't forced. You were found. And I don't want to be free, if it means losing you." Her breath caught. "You would fight a warlord for me?" She asked. He smiled. "I'd fight 1,000. A few hours later, they landed on a neutral moon. A peace zone, no weapons. No war. They walked toward the center of a glowing stone temple where the warlord waited, surrounded by guards. He was tall, cruel-looking, with sharp eyes and a voice like thunder. "You dare bring the human?" he said to Trina. "You shame your bloodline." Trina stood straight. "No, I honor it. By standing with someone who treats me like a person, not a prize." The warlord growled. "Enough. Come back or I will take you by force." Jace stepped forward. "Try." The guards moved, but Trina raised her hand. "I am no longer yours," she said. "My pod was opened. My bond was formed. You know the law." The warlord's face twisted. "You bonded with him?" She nodded. Double quotes by choice. For a long moment, no one spoke. Then the warlord laughed. You are broken, Trina. Keep the human. Run. I have no more use for you. He turned and walked away, but his eyes were full of hate. Jace whispered, He'll come back someday. Trina nodded. Let him. Next time we won't be running. Back aboard the ship, the stars stretched out before them. Quiet. Endless. JSCE leaned against the console. So, what now? Trina sat beside him. We find a home, a real one. He looked at her. And us? She took his hand. We are already home. He smiled, then kissed her soft, warm, real. Not because of law. Not because of accident. Because of heart.